it's important that you're not just looking for the cheapest loan officer. I think that's a very distinction to make, because oftentimes the cheapest loan officer may not even be local to your client. The cheapest loan officer may be a call center that closes at 4 o'clock in the evening and you can't get in contact with them. Or on the weekend when you're out making an offer with your client, right? You can't get in touch with them in order to get an updated pre-approval letter, things like that.
Yeah.
So I think cheapest comes with a cost. And many times that cost is to your client.
Hey friends, I'm Rosemary Lewis, your homegirl, and I'm so excited that you are here. I do not care what it looks like on Instagram or HGTV. This whole being a realtor thing is not for the faint at heart. In 2017, I quit my job as a teacher to follow my real estate dreams and quickly found myself overwhelmed and struggling. Fast forward to today. Not only have I been recognized as one of the leaders in our industry, I have actually grown a business that I absolutely love. I don't care if you're a brand new agent trying to figure out how to get started or a veteran feeling overwhelmed and just stuck. I was just like you, and I totally get it. Many times I wish there was someone that I could just talk to about all the challenges I was facing. And that is why I created this space just for you. Like best friends do, I'm giving you all the tea related to navigating and thriving in these real estate streets. If I can do it, guess what? That's proof that you can too. Everything's better with friends, so let's succeed together. Welcome to the Real Estate Bestie Podcast. What up, real estate besties? Welcome to today's episode. And I have to tell you that I am really excited, and we have been getting great feedback on our series on who do you need on your team. If you haven't checked it out, a couple episodes ago, I had Kimberly, who was my transaction coordinator, and we talked about just the importance of having a transaction coordinator. And we will go ahead and make sure that we put a link to that episode in the show notes so that you can check it out. But today, listen, we got my boy Lance. What's up, Lance?
What's up, Rosemary? What's up, real estate besties?
Look, Lance is here because we are going to talk about an integral member of your team, which is your lender. So full disclosure, y'all, I know that a lot of us in the real estate business, we start off serving buyers. We start off as buyers agents, and having the right lender is a game changer. And I was introduced to Lance a couple of years ago. He was working with a bank that shall remain nameless that came out with a program. And while the program was a little wonky, I love the way Lance educated the realtors on that call, the way he conducted himself. So when I was thinking, like, who can I bring on to have this conversation with us? I was so excited that he accepted our invitation. So welcome, brother.
Thanks a lot, Rosemary. I appreciate it. Look, I was telling you before this started, I'm gonna tell you again, it's definitely an honor to meet you and really get a chance to talk to you. I know on the first time we met, it was like a mass conference call, right? There were so many agents on the call and all of that, but it's good to talk to you one-on-one and definitely have this conversation. So again, it is my honor, I'm honored to be here and talk with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And look, Lance, I'm gonna tell a little bit of our business right quick.
Okay.
Because if this has not happened to you, it will start happening to you, right? Where you will definitely be prospected. We are out here prospecting for business, and
Yes.
You will begin to be prospected by lenders, by title companies, by different people who want your business. And it can feel overwhelming, right? I know when I first started out, I probably gained a good 15 pounds going to lunch and coffee and all that stuff with anybody who asks. One doing real estate business, but I was taking every meeting, but as I got, a little bit more seasoned, I didn't want to be rude because I respect the hustle. I respect the game, right? We're in the same game. But, I have started a thing where if someone calls me and I'm very honest with them, it's just kind of where I am in terms of who I'm working with and, send me your information. But the way, if you really want to fast track working with me, go ahead and send me a referral, right? If you send me a referral, then I get to see how you work with your referral. And then, then we can keep it moving. And most times what happens? Crickets, right? I never hear back from the people. Well, Lance called me the next day with a referral. So I appreciate you put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's important to do that. You know, obviously you're a busy person, Rosemary. I don't want to waste your time. So I think when I contact you, it's about an opportunity that both of us can benefit from. And obviously the client can benefit from as well. You know, putting somebody in a new house is definitely a dream come true for them. So it's important that we do it together, you know?
I love it. Well, without further ado, let's talk about it, because it can be like a lot of times lenders I don't want to say all have the same thing, right? But, they all tell you they can close in 21 days, and they all tell you they have the best rates, and they all tell you this, and they all tell you that. And it can be overwhelming, especially when you are trying to figure out who should definitely be on your team. So tell me a little bit, like from your perspective, what makes a good lender, other than just getting to the closing table?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head right there, Rosemary, because to be honest, there are so many loan officers out there. You know, I mean, everybody mortgage. That's not news to you. If I approach you and I say, hey, I'm a loan officer, I can do a mortgage for you. You're going to be like, okay, and what, right? So as a real estate agent, I think it's important for me to present my value to you and all of your, real estate besties out there. When we're talking, it's important that you're not just looking for the cheapest loan officer. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very distinction to make, because oftentimes the cheapest loan officer may not even be local to your client. The cheapest loan officer may be a call center that closes at 4:00 in the evening and you can't get in contact with them. Or on the weekend when you're out making an offer with your client, right? You can't get in touch with them in order to get an updated pre-approval letter, things like that. Yeah. So I think cheapest comes with a cost. And many times that cost is to your client, right? The availability of the loan officer is critical. So that's one thing where I definitely make sure I set myself apart. When I'm talking to realtors, they should know that is a big difference maker, right? But like you said, again, everybody can do a mortgage. So what else sets a good loan officer apart from all of the 10, 20 that may be calling you? Because like you said, Rosemary, once you get to a certain point, once you've done enough business, you'll have many loan officers reaching out to you. And I'm sure your phone rings on a regular basis, with loan officers who are trying to do business with you. Yeah. And when I contacted you, I was doing the same thing because I knew, a productive real estate agent. So how can I set myself apart, right? What I look for is, what is the big issue in your business? Talk to me about where your problems lie in your business. I want to know, as your partner loan officer, it's not just, I'm just not here to do a transaction with you, but let's talk about some of the challenges that you're having in your business. And I would like to understand where you're coming from, right? What actually drives you to try to be better? What things are challenging you? And I want to help you to reach that goal. And whatever it may be, I've had real estate agents give me some unorthodox things. I've literally had a real estate agent tell me, and for the second time, hey, I want to set up my business to where I can move out of the country and just have everything automated. So I'm on a mission to try to help them to do that, right? How can I help them to reach their goal, whatever it is? And I'm just using that for an example, but I will literally go to Google. If you're not using ChatGPT in your business these days, you might want to step your game up, right? So as a loan officer, I'm using that as well. What can I do to answer this question that I wasn't thinking about before I talked to you? But again, this is your problem and I want to help you win here, right? But ultimately, what I do is add value to your business. I help you grow your network through each transaction. And I can talk to you about that, about building a referral highway around each transaction to make sure that we can help you land not only this closing, but more closings in the future. So there's so much to a loan officer, and I don't want to be too long-winded here, right? So I'll let you kind of stop me. I'll pause for a second. But there's so much that a loan officer should be able to offer beyond just low interest rates.
Yeah. So yeah. You just said something that I think is so important. And one of my first conversations that I have with anybody that I'm working with is I need to be clear on your communication style, right? So, am I going to be able to get you on the phone after 4 p.m.? If I need rates swung in a different direction, are you going to be able to have that conversation with the client? Also being very clear, besties, I think that sometimes, and I was guilty of this, is that we think, okay, our job is to find the house, their job is to do the financing. But what I found is that if you are not in partnership with your loan officer and having these conversations with them to make sure that they are communicating completely with the client, then it could be a dumpster fire. I'm thinking about one of my first transactions. I had somebody, I never forget, they were pre-approved for $350,000 and like, yay, we got the pre-approval and they went out and we're shopping, we're under contract, right? But what happens when we go under contract and we send the we send the contract to the loan officer, they come back with the loan estimate and my client looks at that payment and they're like, oh no, I don't want to pay that. Even though they were approved for it, the loan officer never had that conversation. And I honestly don't blame the loan. I mean, I do hold them a little bit responsible, but I should have had the conversation with the loan officer to make sure that we are communicating all these things so that we're all on the same page. So communication is beyond key with anyone you're working with in business.
Yeah, I completely agree, Rosemary. And, just to kind of go back on that scenario that you talked about where the person was unaware of what their payment was until they were under contract. Again, that's a disaster. If the payment's too high, the customer is not going to want to buy the house. You got to back out of the contract. It's just ugly, right? So you definitely don't want to have to deal with something like that. So I think it's important to know what your loan officer's process is also. Mm-hmm. And you're right. I mean, as a estate agent, I'm sure you felt some fiduciary responsibility to help the customer make sure they understood their payment. But the onus goes to the loan officer on that, because that is part of the fundamental conversation. After the client has completed the loan application, I get the loan application back, and then we have a very detailed conversation, not just about what the monthly payment will be, but we're going to make a mortgage plan. Mm-hmm. And so plan does not look like, okay, here's your monthly payment, down payment, let's get this closed. It's going to be more so, talk to me about why you're buying this house. Is it the schools? Do you have small kids? Are they going to live in this area for a long period of time with you? Talk to me about that, because if your goal is to only live in this house for 5 years, that's a completely different mortgage plan from a person who's going to live in this house for 30 years.
Yep.
Monthly payment could be different based on what we determine is necessary for their particular lifestyle and what their plans are in the future. So having a very fundamental process that lays it out for the client from start to finish, open communication, as you mentioned, many updates, throughout the process. There can be multiple loan estimates that come out. So we want to talk to the client about those things along the way as well. But we are going to set those payment expectations very early in the process, way before you go out with that client and you're able to show them houses. But another thing is, and I did leave that, that bank that we're going to leave nameless here. I did leave that bank, but I can tell you, to get a client pre-approved there took 7 days, at least 7 days. And when they got busy, it was sometimes 14 days. So there's a difference. There's some semantics that they use at the bigger banks. They will tell you you're pre-qualified or you're pre-approved. Those are two completely different things with many of the larger banks. And
touch on that, Lance, because I think that our besties need to know the difference, because there is, again, this is, the lender's lane, but there is some language, right, that we need to be aware of. If your client comes to you already saying, oh, I'm already pre-approved, and they hand you a pre-qualification, we need to understand those differences. So can you touch on that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you go to a large bank, you talk to a loan officer. Many times you might have to dial an 800 number, press a few extensions to get to a loan officer, maybe on hold for a little while. You talk to the big bank, and then they tell you, okay, go ahead and do our loan application. We're going to pull your credit based on the information you enter on the loan application, such as your income, your money for your down payment. I'm going to use that to pre-qualify you without any documents in hand. So that basically means I'm going to trust you as a borrower to put all of the correct information on the application, which rarely happens, right? So a client, put that they earn X amount of dollars per hour or per year, but then when we get the W-2s and the paycheck, it's completely different from what they put on the application. So a pre-qualification is basing everything on sight unseen. Yeah. So no documents, and I trust what the customers put on it. The only thing that they have many times is just the credit report. Yeah. And so the credit report, credit score, and all of that, and they can calculate the debt to income ratio based on that income the customer put on the application, which is a linchpin, to the process, right? It could either be one way or another. If the customer put that they make a little bit more than they make and they don't qualify, it could be a huge issue if I've given you a pre-qualification letter, right? Because you go out and make an offer and get an offer accepted using that pre-qualification letter. So to go a step further, the big bank will give you an opportunity to do a pre-approval. And so that pre-approval basically means that they will give you like a 14-day window and say, okay, Rosemary, send me your W-2, your check stub, your bank statement, and any other supporting documentation to approve your loan. This is before you even have had an offer accepted on a house, okay? So at that point, you're basically just getting a pre-approval so that you can go shopping. And that letter is a lot more, it holds a bit more weight than a pre-qualification. But again, the window is a pre-qualification takes 30 minutes. A pre-approval with the banks takes anywhere from 7 to 14 days.
And that's with the big banks. With some local lenders, like right now, is that your time frame to get a pre-approval in?
And also, that's where I'm going to draw the delineation here. The difference between us is now I am a mortgage broker. And so as a mortgage broker, I have far more control over that process. And I'm able to get a loan approval within 24 hours in most cases, unless there's significant complexity, to the transaction. If it's a typical, a self-employed person who has clear, obvious income on their tax returns, it's fine. If it's a person who has a W-2 and a paycheck stub, that's fine as well, if it's clear cut. But if there are some significant complexities, again, that could be a little bit longer process, perhaps 48 hours, maybe 72. But we're not going to go 3 days or more without a full loan approval, even with complex files. As long as you give me all of the documentation that I need from you, I will be able to answer you quickly. But again, 95% of the loan approvals that I've done over the last, 3 months, I'll just say, have been same day. We turn them around immediately in most cases because the client is motivated to buy a home and they'll send me their documents and we'll get it underwritten quickly.
No, I love that. I want to highlight a couple of things here. One is, definitely make sure that Lance just told us the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. But, it's really easy now. People go online, you have all these different banks, click here to get pre-approved. Sometimes your clients just don't know the difference, right? And then they don't know the difference. And then sometimes even with inputting like your income, they say buyers are liars, but some of them are liars, but some of them just don't know, right? They're counting their overtime or they're counting their side job and different things that might not actually be allowable depending on the loan product that they're doing. So doing that additional due diligence, especially when you have people that are coming to you waiving this pre-qualification or pre-approval, that is one of the first questions that I ask when I'm working with, another lender, because I do have clients that come with their own lender. I have my preferreds, but they will come with their own. I'm happy to work with anyone, but I tell my clients in our consultation, like, hey, here's the thing. I'm happy to work with whomever you want. I give them my feedback on my experience, if I've had any experience with that bank, positive or not. But I'm like, I need to talk to the loan officer. And that's one of the first questions. Did you verify the documentation? Right. And besties, make sure that even on your listings, don't just, look at that number on that pre-approval or that pre-qualification and feel like it's good. pick up the phone, call that loan officer and just say, hey, did you verify these assets? Did you verify this credit? Did you verify all of these different things? Because everyone is not created equal. Every offer is not created equal. Every loan officer's process is not equal. And this is why I think it's so important to have a lending partner on your side, because even when, they might not necessarily be involved, they can help educate you so that you even know how to approach your listings and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that partnership is critical. Some of my preferred realtors that I deal with, who work with me on a regular basis, they all like my process. And so what that process looks like is when you're about to make an offer, Rosemary, you should let me know that, right? So you have a client that you and I are working with, you're about to make an offer. So now at that point, I'm going to pick up the phone and call the listing agent as well as a loan officer. That one phone call goes extremely far, right? So there are little things in the process that a loan officer should be able to do to tweak that process just enough to even extend your chances of your offers getting accepted, right? Yeah. So when that loan officer picks up the phone to talk to that listing agent, it's important to give as many details as are allowable, right? So just giving that seller's agent certainty that you have vetted the client, that you've seen those documents as well, and that you're ready to close within a given window. Give them a number, right? So how quickly can we close? All of those questions should come up in that conversation with the seller's agent as well. But you as the buyer's agent, of course, you're going to know that along the way also. So part of what I do, Rosemary, again, what I would consider court real estate agents, right? So I reach out to real estate agents, and part of my initial conversation with real estate agents includes explaining my process. Right. And giving that agent some certainty that I know what I'm doing. Just to be honest with you, I've been doing this for a very long time. I started as a loan officer in 2005, right? So I've seen the market do all sorts of things, right? And I've been able to work with a number of real estate agents, and I've learned really how to tweak the process to really help our clients benefit from the relationship between the realtor and the loan officer. I think that's important.
No, I love that. Let me back up to something that you said before, where you said that it's important to understand your client's problem. Client being the real estate agent, like what problems are you encountering, and so that you can solve it. And, I want you all to think about, Betsy's, think about your ideal client, think about the price point, think about what type of support that they have. So I'm thinking about somebody on my team that, she is a first-time home buyer, and she really has a heart for first-time home buyers, right? To make home ownership possible for people. So she is marketing to that demographic. So it's important that she is partnered with a loan officer who understands, right? Who understands how to work with, understand resources, understands how to explain things like, what are the pros and cons of having a down payment assistance program, right? Like, what are the pros and cons of doing this? Like helping them understand. You may have to, a first-time home buyer may not understand the components of a mortgage, so they may need someone who's going to be a little bit more on the coaching education side. So being partnered with someone like that, as opposed to I work with a lot of move-up buyers, right? So they're shopping jumbo loans, and that we need to time things in a certain way. Like I need the loan officer to be clear on, do they need to sell their house, and how do we need to structure that, so that I structure the contract and the conversations in a certain way. And not to say that loan officer can't be the same person, but you need to be clear on who you serve, so that as you're having conversations with loan officers, we can be clear on, okay, are you going to be a good fit? Like I have one of my loan officers that I work with, I don't send first-time home buyers to her who are in need of down payment assistance, because that's not her jam. And not to say that she's not a great loan officer, but that's just not her jam. So it would cause frustration if I'm sending somebody to her with that expectation and she's not able to meet the expectation. Now it impacts the way I look to the client and the way she looks to the client.
That's huge, Rosemary. I think that's one of the biggest, just points of friction between the loan officer and the realtor conversation. In all honesty, Rosemary, as a loan officer who has reached out to I don't know, hundreds of realtors at this point in attempts to have these types of conversations with them. I've found that many times once we do connect, sometimes it's just not a good fit.
Yeah.
Sometimes my business model is not the same as yours. You may be after first-time home buyers, maybe wanting to be more of a community outreach type realtor or loan officer, which we need those types of people. We need those types of realtors and loan officers in the business. That may be you and that may not be you. But if I'm after affluent clients who are buying, like you said, move up buyers who are buying homes in the, jumbo loan range for what I'm doing, I may not specialize in the community outreach. I may not be the one to go to for down payment assistance and all of those other things. So you're right. And that's why it's important if a realtor, and this is to all the realtor besties out there as well, if you're shopping for a loan officer, it's important to talk to that loan officer about far more than just what their rates are and what programs they have. Because I can promise you, as a mortgage broker, I can do anything.
Yeah.
You tell me you need a loan. If it's possible, it can be done. And there are thousands like me, Rosemary, I'm going to be honest with you, who can do almost any loan. That's what people have to understand. That's not where the value lies. I think it's important to understand with the loan officer realtor relationship, the value lies far deeper than what the products are. It's about the service. It's about the process. It's also about where those specialties lie. If you're focused on a particular market, it's good to have a loan officer that is also hyper focused on that market to accentuate your business.
Yeah. And besties, I want to, we're coming to a close of our time, but I definitely want to impress upon this because, you have a lot of people that can woo you, but not, but they can't make good on the promises, right? And believe me, I remember the first time I was like, oh, we gonna go to Del Frisco? Okay, I'm gonna work with you. Like, okay. I was mentioned or had an article about me in Real Producers magazine. And there was a loan officer who, he wanted to take me to lunch. So he took me to this fancy place and he presented me with a plaque that had my article. It's still hanging in my office. I appreciate you, sir. But guess what? I know his name because he never followed up with me after that day, right? Mm-hmm. So even though, he took me to the fancy lunch and bought me the really nice, thoughtful gift, I could tell by the way he interacted with me that he wouldn't be a good fit for my clients, right? Because it felt very transactional. And don't get me wrong, some people are transactional and that will be a good fit for you, but it just wasn't a good fit for me. So don't feel obligated to send somebody some business because they took you to Starbucks, right? Honestly, you should have a time block so tight where, yes, you are opening yourself up for opportunity, but, we need to be out here getting business to send to the offices, not being on every lunch date that reaches out to you. And I just know some people, I don't subscribe to some of the tactics that even realtors, right? If you a realtor that you don't give a squat worth of value, but you show up at closing with a Louis Vuitton robe, and God bless you. Fortunately, you wasted your buyer's time and their money. So, but hey, it's all good for the gram, right?
Right. But yeah, definitely, Rosemary. It's been a pleasure. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. And I'm still reaching out to your team. You let those folks know that Lance is still calling. I'm bugging them, Rosemary. I definitely want to get in and talk with y'all. And I'm looking for ways to add value to your business. So, perhaps we can get a meeting one of these days.
Shoot your shot on this live podcast. So these people ask me, like, we can work with Lance. No, we I sent you one client.
In the process right now, we actually just sent it to the lender yesterday. He uploaded his documents. So we working, Rosemary, we working.
We working, baby steps.
Yeah.
But let's know. So if our besties, because I know that there's somebody on the line, like, I need him. Like, I don't need to call nobody else. Tell them, what states do you serve and how can they get in contact with you?
So Texas, California, Louisiana, and Oklahoma right now. I'm thinking about, depending on what's going on, I'm looking at serving some additional states in the future, but that's where I am for now. And as far as where I can be reached at, you can reach me on Instagram at Home Loans with Lance. Same on Facebook, Home Loans with Lance, or just Lance Wilmore on Facebook as well. You can find me there.
All right, y'all, now look, be sliding in his DMs. Like, Lance, we gonna put your picture up. Are you married?
I am, yes.
So look, we don't want to have besties. I don't want no issues out of Lance's wife. Like, if y'all go in his DM, go in there. You better go in there for a home loan. Don't be going in there like, oh my God. No, he is here to help you with your loan.
Absolutely. Yep.
We don't have a lot of men in the real estate bestie community. I don't want them to be getting all bothered. So let me put it out there right now.
Yep. I am married. But yeah, Rosemary, let's definitely connect. I'll be talking with you soon. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. And besties, again, reach out to Lance. And I hope that our conversation just helps you out with just different questions and things you need to, when you go to that Starbucks meeting, like, go with your toolkit, ask them about their communication style. What do they specialize in? Is that a match for what you specialize in? And, just start to build your team. So as always, besties, I hope that this episode was helpful. If it was, if you could do me a favor, go ahead and give us a 5-star review, because what that does in the podcast world is that it lets other real estate besties who may be out here feeling like they're swimming all alone know that there is a community here to help them. So hit that share button, give a review, do all the things, tag me on social. Until next week, besties, y'all be good. If you enjoyed this episode and you have a real life bestie that you think it would resonate with, y'all, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that share button, because you know what? We are better together. Make sure you share the podcast, and I appreciate your reviews. I appreciate you giving me 5 stars more than you know. I'll talk to you next week.